Drummer. All in all, I thought it was a really good game. It was just a shame because of the corrupt RFL.
Ah,
The build-up was all about Knowles. Hopefully, the RFL can do more advertising. That would be a bloody first, Callum. And do it early for the grand final to get the crowd back up to what it should be. Any late ones, Mark?
do you know what? I think we all knew when the grand final was at the start of the year.
Yeah.
So we've had a long time to buy tickets as rugby league fans. I get what Callum's saying because I think there's an element of we expect this culture of event culture that we keep getting told about that exists apparently in this country now. It doesn't exist in rugby league. It doesn't apply to rugby league enough, and we've got so many events this year that it's just way too many. I think part of the lower crowd is because we've all got a lot of money put aside for the World Cup, or we've all spent a lot of money already this year, or we don't have any money to spend because most rugby league fans are not in the top 1% that this whole fucking new government that's got no mandate to do what it's doing is benefiting. So it's all. There's a lot of factors involved. I don't know if advertising the grand final more would necessarily make much difference, but the one place it needs to be advertised more is in and around Manchester to people who like to do stuff in and around Manchester. I think that's an area that needs work, but outside of that, rugby league fans have had all year to buy the tickets. So it's either the ticket pricing for sideline tickets and in neutral places is just not right, and I think there's a bit to that. I don't think it's right for a rugby league audience, or a cost of living crisis situation, but I think, IMG hopefully will have something that they can work on with this. The rugby league, the Super League, and the rugby league people will bounce back in numbers. But I don't know if you have any other views about the crowd figure before we talk about anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I tell you what, it was better than last year when obviously we had the Catalan situation. I think what I did notice very much this time was there were a lot fewer neutrals in the ground and around the ground before the game. So I do think your point about not getting the pricing for the side areas right is valid. I also think there probably is something in people are just getting a little bit fed up with the same old story, aren't they? So, it would probably do the game a bit of a favour if we could have some new names on the trophy and so on and so forth in the future. Obviously not what I want. I'd love to see Saints go and win it again, but
Yeah.
I think for the game it would make a significant difference if we got a Hull Leeds final or something like that, somewhere something where we've got or a Hull Salford final, so something where we've got some interest, or Warrington, of some different audiences coming through and a bit of a promise of a new champion.
Well, my two tickets were intended to be occupied by neutrals, but in the end, it was someone who had a St Helens affiliation who got my two tickets. So there you go. I did ask them to send in a fan review, but they didn't, so that's a shame. But I hope they enjoyed the day. I'm sure they did. Right, let's talk about the day. You have a particular kind of routine for grand finals, and the fact that Saints now have won 9 of them and been to 14 of them means that routine's probably pretty well tread. But how did you find the day in general, sort of building up to the game?
Yeah, it was a really nice week. I mean, it's grand final week's always a lot of fun, isn't it? And you get a lot of both teams appearing in the media, and I mean, obviously not all of that was positive, but there was a lot of positive stuff out during the week, and getting the build up to the game. We were meeting up with friends and people coming up from the south and so on that I hadn't seen for a long time. So we're always looking forward to that. So a good week, a lot of fun. I'd been away for a few days in Anglesey with my wife as well, so that had been particularly nice out on the beaches of North Wales. and then for the day itself, we did what we do every year now, which is we sort of get by public transport over to Altrincham, south of Manchester, because it's much easier to get back out again afterwards on the tram. And Altrincham Market's terrific for food and drink and so on before the game. So we went there, got there about lunchtime, but sort of 5 or 6 of us there, had some of the fantastic food, hit the bar and got a few drinks into us, though we tried not to go too heavy. Last year got a bit messy, so we tried to ease off a little bit and make sure we could remember the final. Then we went and met up with more of our family and friends up at Old Trafford at about 4:30 before the game. Got ourselves nicely into our seats. We had seats reasonably low down, so we're in 103 this time, just to the left of the posts, and picked up the atmosphere before the game. It was really humming in the Saints End, delighted to see it fill up pretty well before kick-off. We had a great day. I think that I don't want this to sound at all arrogant, because it's not meant to be, but I was quite relaxed about this final. I think the Wigan final, actually, we couldn't go to anyway. I was very anxious about, and then last year against Catalan, I knew we were in for an absolute ding dong. But I felt before this game that if we played to our best, I felt we were a better side still, and that we ought to win the game. And if we didn't play to our best, then we wouldn't deserve it. So I was relatively relaxed. And then obviously once the game progressed and, we got off to such a flying start with a lovely bit of work by Lomax to shoot into the hole left by the referee and put Leeds in by the sticks. At that point, whilst we didn't completely relax, we felt like we're in control of the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's probably, in a way, a bit more drama and intrigue in the week building up to the game itself.
Yeah.
With all of the to-in and fro with the disciplinary and the absolute bollock dropped, basically, at the first hearing that meant the appeal could be successful. Because I don't think you or I or many of our contributors to this show thought that Knowles didn't warrant some sort of charge and ban for that tackle in the semi-final, but that's definitely been and gone. When a favourite for a match starts well and scores early, it can have the effect where the match seems to be not in doubt, not too stressful, kind of inevitable. Yeah. So I think that can happen, didn't it? So let's kind of go through the game then. So the earliest ever grand final try, you've talked about the one scored by Matty Lees. I assume of that just removed any even sliver of nerves that you weren't going to be on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just made us relax. It was like, okay, we're in control of the game at this point. It's not always been that way this year. We have this method of sort of defending from the front, like Wigan did against Leeds last week. Keep teams back in their own 20, make it really hard for them to get out. And sometimes it takes a while for the energy levels to drop for us to start scoring tries, particularly since we haven't been as fluent in attack this year as we were even last year.
Lomax just caught Leeds being really loose in terms of their defensive alignment, didn't he? And
he did.
I suppose that would be the other great feeling for you guys when you knew Johnny Lomax was absolutely right on it from the start. And when you've got the best player on the pitch and that player starts the game like that, you kind of know you're in for a win.
Yeah, well, it certainly gives you a lot of optimism that your pre-match feeling that you ought to win the game, was more likely than not going to be okay. And then, the game we kept the squeeze on. We weren't going mad, but we kept the squeeze on And then, there were a couple of close calls.
Well, that's it, didn't it? Leeds did have the odd opportunity. I mean, as is always the case against this Saints defence, you don't get many chances to attack in good field position. So when you get them, you need to execute. And, Leeds got one of those chances by Austin kicking a really good 40-20 kick.
Yeah.
Tackle 2, they knocked on. That wasn't the first time in good position already in the game where they'd knocked on an early tackle. So, they'd had a penalty that got them up the field as well earlier on, where actually it kind of took away their trick play because Percival was so far offside that when Austin kicked it wide for Hanley, the whistle inevitably blew because Percival was offside like he always is. And actually, as inevitable as that was, the first penalty of the game was a high tackle by James Bentley, wasn't it? So even more inevitable. But
it was. Yeah,
but
it was.
I guess, in a way, the fact that Leeds were making those errors early in their attacking sets would have made it even more comfortable for you guys. And then the next thing that happened not long after that in the opening period of the game was the Benison try. Really good short kick from Jack Welsby. That part of his game was definitely on point here in this match. And 12-0 at that point, great conversion from Makinston. How were you feeling sort of midway through the first half?
Well, that did squash any remaining nerves. So, they had a couple of opportunities. We'd put pressure on them with our defence. Our defence is very up and at them. And, whilst they made mistakes, some of it is forced because Saints are so quick onto players. It makes it very difficult. You've got to get it exactly right.
Yeah.
Sort of make the break. We'd been down that side in, I think, a set or two before and been forced into touch. Some good defence by Leeds. And this time, Welsby popped up and laid in a lovely little kick. I don't know how obvious it was on the TV, but in the ground, the bloody in goals were so narrow. So he did a really nice job to be able to roll the ball just enough to get it over the line without it sort of going dead.
Yeah, they are fairly small in goals, and also with the fact that it switches from grass to Astro halfway through them, it kind of gives that optical illusion that they're even shorter. They don't have anything on the in goals at Robin Park in terms of shortness, but but it was a great kick, great weight of kick, and the fact that you'd had those. You'd basically scored 2 tries from 3 attacking opportunities, whereas Leeds had scored no tries from 3 attacking opportunities. You then went close again as well with Hurrell, didn't you? Good defence by Leeds, pushing him out over the line on the opposite side of the pitch. But you looked more threatening in your attacking options.
Well, what was interesting at that point, Mark, was I think having got 2 scores up, Saints decided they were going to start to chuck the ball about a bit and take some risks. Because I think if they thought, well, if we can get another, that's it. It's done. So we forced a goal line dropout. We were really pushing the envelope. There was lots of bits of fancy play going on, which is not how we've been playing the game at all this year. And then, as you rightly say, Hull got pushed in the corner. But Leeds did really well to stay in the game at that point, because I think if might have been, the game up.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, and it was mentioned in one of the comments, we ticked over into the second quarter, and then suddenly a couple of penalties, drop ball, Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrook came on, he gave a penalty away, he chucked a ball away on halfway. We started to, lose our discipline defensively.
Well, you had the penalty kick at goal as well that missed, and then that was followed up by a high shot, wasn't it? And so that did feel like a point where Leeds, I guess, grasped an opportunity to get back into the game. That was that penalty that led to the kick at goal. That was the Reece Martin tackle on Johnny Lomax. It was really one of the few flashpoints in the game until the final hooter and Makinson went, annoying all the Leeds fans. But in terms of in the actual game itself, the Reece Martin dangerous tackle, definitely a penalty. Obviously, he raised him above the horizontal. I don't think it was anything more than a penalty. He didn't drive him to the ground, did he? Lomax landed safely, pretty